So I'm a mixed media artist. I've been doing collage for the past 10 to 12 years or so. I had my speech timed to the slide after this, so we're going to have this awkward. But you can see a lot of detail in the work that a lot of it that I do, and some of it still has a lot of that detail. So yeah, mixed media artist working in collage combined with other media like paint, graphite, ink, and colored pencils. I take these elements, travel through time, and construct a new reality. I participated in art fairs and gallery shows around the country and have had my work published nationally and internationally. For years, my work celebrated everyday objects as more heroic when put into a new context. This involved intricate cutting and detail to create these experiences. In the past few years, my work has evolved into a more abstract space, where colors and patterns take on more meaning for me. This was a new language to explore, first based on the use of airbrush with Big Whiskey on the left. I put myself through art school airbrushing t-shirts in the 80s. I also became obsessed with overhead photography of the earth and the interesting geometric patterns created by man's effect on the natural environment. Cellular is on the right. It's based on lithium fields in South America. What I want to talk about tonight is a current, more personal direction that ties in directly with my childhood. I'm the youngest of 5 kids from South Louisiana. There aren't many pictures of me as a young child. My mom said that by the time I came around, she was tired of taking pictures of us kids. Thanks, Mom. She placed me in kindergarten a year early so she could go back to work. The center picture is from kindergarten. In fact, I found that many of my early portraits did not involve a smiling version of myself. Old documentation is another obsession of mine for its aesthetic, but in this case, it's the proof of my existence. There's a copy of my birth certificate, a map of my childhood neighborhood, some grades from college, and a plaster impression of my hand from kindergarten. These elements are touchstones showing moments of my life as I try to make sense of who I was as a child, how I was raised, and ultimately who I am as a man now. I can sense an art therapy session coming. As a child growing up, I remember being left to my own devices, often for meals. The routine was opening the kitchen cabinet to find something to eat, which most often involved breakfast cereal, no matter the meal. I spent a lot of time reading the backs of cereal boxes while I polished off a box of cornflakes. A submarine powered by baking soda? Hell yeah. That time was imaginary exploration for me, released from the confines of my hometown. I could go anywhere in the world, even outer space. I hit upon the idea of creating a series of works that would use flattened boxes of cereal, Pop-Tarts, grits, oatmeal, cookies, whatever fed me as a kid. These boxes, when flattened, form interesting shapes that beg to be used as surfaces for my work, and more importantly, to be a major part of the story that I would tell about my life. Besides the food options, I also used packaging from a 6-pack of beer, which formed the basis of a piece about an ill-fated relationship I had while in art school. This first piece features an actual kid eating a bowl of cereal from an old cornflakes ad. That's basically me. To the right are words describing reactions to the world around me through a male-dominated lens. Things I should be, ways to get ahead, reactions to becoming a man, for better or worse. Words and phrases like job security, power, men wanted, sports, panic. To the right of that is a mix of mechanical images, very masculine-looking elements, a portal of sorts to an adult life. I had the idea of using cyanotypes as a visual device. It's a photographic process that produces dreamlike images, the perfect metaphor for the fuzzy memory of my childhood. On the left is a shot of me with a small fish I caught. On the right is that kindergarten portrait on a cracker box. The white vertical pattern is a player piano song with the lyrics on the right. It reads, "Far, far away, I am dreaming, watching the waves." These pieces feature cyanotype combined with collage. I'm telling a subconscious story about how I learned from early childhood that if I was going to survive, it was up to me. Self-reliance. Imagination would be the fuel for my life moving forward. Panels on these pieces feature flat color, science, and futuristic imagery, ads in the back of comic books advertising things like X-ray specs, and an actual comic book characters that show tension, anger, aggression, all the things of an American male. I was also filled with dreams of space as a kid. I loved movies and TV shows about space. I had a kindergarten friend who was having a space-themed birthday party. We were promised our own spacesuits. Instead, they were spacesuits drawn on poster boards, placed in front of our torsos and tied around our waists. Huge letdown. This piece is the opposite. Bright colors, space imagery, my face on an astronaut's body wearing a real spacesuit. This is the back of a Cheerios box, a fuzzy cyanotype image of me standing knock-kneed in sagging underwear. The look on my face to me looks like I'm attempting to smile, but not convincingly. The map in the background, of course, speaks to travel. There's also an old geodesic globe-shaped antenna, the lunar excursion model from an Apollo mission, and an injection of color, dry transfer typography that I used in my advertising design classes in college. This more recent piece is made from a deconstructed book of postcards from Paris in the 1930s. The idea of international destination also plays right into the developing theme of this series, the dream of a faraway land where ultimately my ancestors lived. This is all yet another form of time travel for me, connecting to the kid I was, to the man I am, to my ancestry, my future, another wormhole to travel through, and to invite others to join me on this trip. My mind at the kitchen counter back then was using my imagination as the rocket that could take me anywhere. As an adult, I'm able to channel that imagination to go back in time, reinterpret my life, to find both revelation of trauma and healing from it. We live in this linear timeline, experiencing one thing at a time. But God lives outside of that timeline, and He can and has inserted Himself into any part of it at will. I think He's inviting me to do the same by the use of paper, glue, and my imagination.